With all the new technology and the abundance of information on the web, you would think that buying or selling or understanding the real estate market would be easier than ever. But ask yourself one question. Now that you've done your homework and you think you know what's going on, what do you do next? Good morning, everyone. Having some technical difficulty here. Where's my stamp? Hang on one second here. Oh, that's not going to work. There we go. Okay. Welcome. One of the first things you do, obviously, is you go and you take a look at homes. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about what you should do when you actually go to an open house. Now, there's all kinds of dynamics that are going on when you go into an open house. And we know it's almost as bad as going to the car dealership, right? You don't know exactly what to say to some stranger that, you know, is showing the house that you've never met before, and your house is, you know, $500,000, $1 million, maybe even more than that, and you want to take your time, and here comes this person who you don't know, and there's that whole dynamic. So we're going to get into that today and talk about how you can feel very comfortable when you go to an open house rather than feel a little pressure or understand the dynamics. So I'm going to explain to you today in a little bit of detail about how, if you go into an open house, how you should approach it, what you should do to get the most out of the amount of time that you're there, and use that in your negotiation process. In other words, you want to know as much as you can about the house so that you can therefore make an educated decision about how you want to move forward if that's the case. And so I'm going to give you some tools today to do that, and we're going to have a lot of fun. This is Facebook Live. If you have any questions about what I'm talking about and you want to make a comment, please go ahead and make or create a question in the comments section just below here. I will see it on my screen. I don't have the kind of platform that has me looking at you as an audience, so you can hide. But if you ask a question, what will happen is I will see it and it'll come right across your screen, and we can therefore address any issue. Okay, I want to introduce myself real quickly. My name is Stewart Fournier. I'm a residential realtor, have been in Los Angeles area, specifically the South Bay beaches, for well over 18 years. My wife and I, Randy, have a combination of experience that is 35 years plus. We've done short sales, we've done foreclosures, we've done new builds, we've done obviously residential, we've done 1031 exchanges, we've done probate. We've done it all in the 35 plus years that we've been in business. And the reason that we started this blog was to do things like what we're talking about today. Pick things apart for your benefit and maybe give you some advice that you haven't heard or seen on the internet. So we're excited to be here. I'm excited to be here. So again, if you have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and get started here. Sorry, didn't mean to have that chyron up as much as it is. Let me take that down. There we go. Okay, so let's get started. One thing. I'm very, very excited to announce that I have a sponsor. Can you believe that? I have a sponsor. My sponsor is someone who I have worked with in the past. I've talked before. Let me get her information up. All right, now I'm really confused. This is very embarrassing. I had my sponsor's information here, and now it's gone. What happened? This is frustrating. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't have my sponsor's information, so my sponsor gets off the hook for this week. That's embarrassing. It was right there a second ago. When you're a one-man band, it doesn't always work out. So let's get going. Let's talk about open houses and what you should do. Now, first things first, take your time. Take your time, because when you're going to make an investment like this, it only stands to reason that you want to know exactly what your next move is going to be. I realize that you've seen potentially a number of houses and it gets to be a little monotonous, but the truth of the matter is that you want to take your time. Now, when you go into a house for the first time, what I usually tell my clients when I'm showing the houses, and by the way, it really is a good idea to take your agent with you because you're going to save a lot of time and energy respective of the fact that your agent's going to see a lot more than you're seeing, and you want that protection. But if for any reason your agent's not with you, what I'm going to do is give you two major tips here that'll allow you to sort of walk in and observe things like an agent would. And the first thing I want you to realize is you're actually going to go in the house 2 times. Literally, go in, come back, physically come back out of the house, then go back in again. And let me explain exactly why you want to do something like that. What I usually tell my clients the very first time that I take them out is do yourself a favor. Take the burden of what you don't know about the house off your shoulders. And the way that you do that is when you first enter the house, take into account whether this is even on your radar. Does this house match anything that your criteria, is the criteria that you're looking for? Is it the right floor plan? Does it make you feel like you want to move into it right away? Is there a comfort level? Do you like the color of the house? Do you like the location? Those kinds of feel-good type emotions should be the only thing you're considering when you walk in the house for the first time. Because respective of everything that's going to happen, if you really want to, if you think that you found the house, none of it matters other than eventually when you say, I'm coming to a place that I really like, I'm coming to a place that gives me a lot of comfort. So search for that the very first time you go in. Forget about the plumbing, forget about the roof, forget about the driveway, forget about the flooring. Forget about all of that. I know that sounds very strange, but the best thing that you can do is get yourself emotionally involved. If you can't do that, walk out of the house. It's not for you. Now, obviously, that depends on the market, how many things are out there. And it's a very generalized statement on my behalf, I realize, because there are so many more variables that can go into actually buying. But just make it as simple as that in the beginning, and you'll be happy. Then what I want you to do, if you're getting that feeling, if this is a house that you're even considering, the next thing you should do is actually walk out of the house. When you walk into a house for the first time, your memory does not allow you to remember very much other than those emotional inputs. Your brain is just not designed that way. Your brain is designed to get an impression, make a judgment. So what I'm saying is when you do that on an open house, you want to go back outside, give your brain a chance to readjust, go back in. Now you're going to be surprised what you will physically see, what you don't even remember the second time you walk in. Now, when you walk in the second time, that's when you're looking for the imperfections. That's when you're looking for, if it's a new build, the baseboards aren't coming together. They weren't put together correctly. The crown molding looks a little crooked. If it's an older house, there's rust around the plumbing. Little things like that. That's okay. And then the obvious, of course, cracks or any foundational problems or things like that that point out. And the reason that you want to do that is that that's separate from and will come up later on. So you do want to have somewhat of a memory about those things. So again, when you go to an open house, I suggest, and of course it's a house that you're considering, physically walk outside and then go back in again. Okay? All right, one other thing. The agent that's actually working the open house. I cannot tell you, I want to say about 90% of the time when people walk into an open house, they don't make contact. They don't make eye contact, that is to say. They don't necessarily shake your hand. They don't acknowledge you. And as realtors, we're so used to that at open houses, and that's not uncommon. However, my suggestion is that when you walk into a house, engage the realtor. Now, I realize that goes against most people's grains because that whole salesmanship thing and the pressure of having a salesman come up to you is just a pressure you don't want at first. You just want to walk in. You want to see if you even want to talk to someone else about this house. I get that. But the truth of the matter is that if you actually engage the agent from the beginning, you're going to get a lot more information than you can imagine as you're walking in. Now, if you're uncomfortable with that, simply let that agent know. Just very politely say, "Do you mind if I see the house?" When someone says to me, "Do you mind if I see the house?" we get it. At least I do. That means you want to be left alone. You want to look at the house by yourself, and there's nothing wrong with that. That actually puts everyone at ease, because most agents, experienced agents, will know that you're someone who's serious. You're someone who is out in the market, and you're signaling to them that you want to take your time, and they want to give you that time. The reason they want to give you that time is, what are you going to talk about unless you've actually physically gone in the house, assimilated, or memorized, or got an idea of what's actually in the house, and now you want to talk about it. So engage the agent more than you're comfortable with. And the reason you want to do that as well is that that agent is dying to give you information about the house, telling you the story potentially about where the seller's mindset is. Are they in a hurry? Are they willing to bring the price down? I mean, there's so many different variables that can come as a result of the conversation that you want to create with the agent. And most agents, in fact, all agents, are appreciative of the fact that you're actually engaging them. Because quite frankly, sitting at open houses is not the most exciting thing for us. So when we get a chance to engage and tell you about the house, that's the whole reason we're there in the first place. It's actually a very big plus for you as the buyer. So make sure you engage the agent. Don't be afraid of the agent. And if you don't want the agent all over you, you have an aggressive agent, just simply say, "Do you mind if I see the house?" They'll get the message. Okay? One other thing. Many, many times when you walk into the house, believe it or not, the person that is the agent that's at the open house may not necessarily be the listing agent. Many times agents will simply ask listing agents if they can do their open house because they're looking for buyers. So you might want to ask them if they're actually the listing agent. And so therefore you get the perspective of whether that agent is actually speaking for the owner themselves, or they're simply there to market the house. So understand that. Okay. Having trouble reading my own writing once again. Okay. Along with that, if you're represented, that is to say, if you have an agent that's working with you as a buyer's agent, make sure the agent knows. And a lot of times people refrain from doing that because they think in some way, if once the listing agent knows that they're represented, the listing agent's going to clam up and not be as forthcoming. And the fact of the matter is that when I'm at an open house and someone is courteous enough to let me know that they have an agent that's working with them, that actually gives me a different perspective in terms of how I'm going to give them information. And I actually feel freer, or less tied, what's the word I'm looking for? Terrible words I'm looking for describing that. I actually am encouraged to be more forthcoming because now I understand the relationship. I'm going to approach that particular person who's represented by a buyer in a more constructive way, because what I'm doing now in my own mind is thinking about how their agent is going to approach the sale itself. So I will actually be more helpful in that regard, because now not only do I know I have someone serious because they're represented, which is a big deal. I don't have just a looky-loo, but I have someone who's been educated. And from the educational standpoint, it stimulates the fact that now I know how to approach that particular buyer. So don't be concerned with that. Make sure that you mention that. It actually helps the process more than hinders it. And it doesn't take any negotiation positions. In fact, it may even help, because I may inadvertently volunteer information that will help the buyer's agent move forward. And that's the idea. So don't be afraid of that. Okay. Okay. Now, let's assume that you liked a house. Many many times, and we see through this, we can tell whether someone likes the house or not. No matter their mood, no matter their affect, no matter how they're approaching their conversation with us, we can tell, experienced agents can tell, whether you're at all interested in the house or not. So what I suggest is get as much information as you can from the agent that's there, and then come back before you make an offer. Definitely every time before you make an offer, come back to the house a second time. And the reason that you want to come back to the house a second time, or maybe even a third, is that you want to take into consideration what your offer is going to be, respective of the terms. In other words, there's a really good chance that since you have only been there once, or maybe even twice, that you don't really understand that there's a potential to ask for different things that you've seen on the property that you didn't notice before. And what tends to happen is if you've gone back a second time, obviously the owners and the listing agents are aware that you're a serious buyer, so they may point out even more things of relevance to you that you'll be able to actually make on your offer. So definitely go back a second time before you make an offer, just so that you can get all the potential information you need in order to make an offer. Okay, so that's 15 minutes. I'm going to cut it off there. I promise to make this 15-minute broadcast and keep it short. I can go on and on, as you know, forever, but we're going to cut it off there. So again, thank you everyone for joining me. One last thing before I go, which I say every time, is please consider getting our Fournier Fournier Home Snap app that allows you to take a picture of any house in America, that's any house in the country, and it'll give you the value of the house. It'll tell you about the schools in the area. It'll give you the value of the house next door. It'll give you the value of the houses in the neighborhood. If it's listed, it'll tell you all the information. It'll give you the open house information. A lot of public record is actually on this app simply by taking a picture of the house, so it's pretty exciting. One other thing that it does is it allows us to talk to you directly. If you're on the app and you're using it, we will not see it. However, at the bottom of the app, there is the ability for you to talk to us directly. So if you'd like to see the house right away, if it's listed and you take a picture and it's available, we can take you right away. Now, no matter where you are in the country, we do have a network of realtors that we can refer to you, actually all around the world. So if you are anywhere out of Los Angeles and you see a house and you want to talk to us about it, we're happy to do that as well. And we're happy to refer you to an agent anywhere in the country. So that's it for now. We'll see you next week. Sorry about my sponsor. I'm going to mention her anyway. It's Heidi Walter Photography. I just feel so bad because the Chiron for her just kind of disappeared. Always consult with your realtor about contractors in the area. I talked about that in another blog. I don't want to get into it now, but we think very highly of her services, and we suggest if you have any photographic needs that you call Heidi Walter Photography. HeidiWalter.com, I'm sure, is on there. Okay, so we'll see you next time, everyone. Bye-bye. Where did her Chiron?
HeidiWalter.com is not
I know.
her website.
It's just not finishing.